Aloha and welcome to Experience 53. This experience is one in which we're going to depart from following along closely with pre-existing Meteor tutorials. We're going to actually try to build kind of, our own little app using Meteor, but following along kind of with the responsive Castle High, responsive Kamanu, kind of taking those two threads and putting them together in this experience or in this digits application. And you can see part one. We're going to spread out the building of this digits thing over a few different WADs so that we can make the WADs a little simpler and focus on kind of one thing at a time. For this particular WAD, what we're going to do is build a page that looks like this. Now you will probably want to find your own little picture for this, and you'll want to do it before the WAD starts, because there's nothing worse than having the time ticking and then you're off at Google trying to find an image that you want to use for your header. So just make your life easier. Go off and find your header image early, and my only recommendation about this, here's my one, is that you find something that's fairly wide. This is about 1800 pixels wide and I think about 800 deep, and we'll resize it. But if you start off with an image that's only a couple hundred pixels wide, it's not going to look very good when you put it into your app. So get something that's fairly, at least 1,000 pixels wide to start with. And then what we'll do is you'll actually select kind of a color scheme that's compatible with whatever image you select. And we'll see that in the WAD as well. So everybody will come up with something that kind of will look a little bit different, although it'll have the same basic structure. Okie dokie, so let's start this WAD. We want to create a GitHub repo called digits and clone it locally. So let's go to GitHub and we'll say new repo and we'll call it digits, and we'll maybe say simple address book, booze book, and we'll give it a readme and we'll say create repo, and then we'll clone in desktop. And then it's going to say where should this thing be, and it's going to put it, let's see here, it's going to put it there, which is a little surprising because we don't have anything there. So let's remove this and try it again. Okay, there we go. So Philip M. Johnson's going to put it in digits along with these other things. That looks right. So we'll say clone. And now we've got it in there. That's good. And so now if we go back to our next step is to import the Meteor application template code. So we'll follow the instructions on the GitHub page. And those instructions are to first add a remote with this line of code. So we'll cd into digits, and then we'll add the remote, and then we will git fetch the template, and then we'll do this git merge. And we get this conflict with the README, okay? And so don't be afraid when that kind of thing happens. It's very simple to fix. And so we'll go on with our instructions, which is to say we create our static IntelliJ project and then we fix the README. So let's go ahead and do that. So we go into IntelliJ, we'll say create new project, static web, and then the project that we want to create is in Philip M. Johnson, digits, choose, and we'll say finish. Okay, and now we've got this digits directory, and you can see IntelliJ where there's a file with a merge conflict, it's going to put it in red. So let's take a look at it. And the way Git shows merge conflicts is it creates a file for you to fix where it's got these delimiters. One that says, okay, this is what the head shows me right now, and it's between these angle brackets head and then this divider, which is this these equal signs. And then at the very bottom it has another delimiter saying the end of the other branch. When we merge these two things, they didn't work. So all that we need to do is just remove those delimiters, and whatever remains is what Git will say, okay, that's how you wanted to resolve this conflict. So let's get rid of this head delimiter, and in this case that is what we actually want to keep. So we can just delete all this other stuff. There's different ways you can do this which are a little bit more automated, but this is a perfectly reasonable way to do it. And so we save it out, and now you can see that this README has turned to black, meaning we've resolved the merge conflict. So let's go back to our thing. We've created a static web IntelliJ project. We've resolved the merge conflict, and then we want to commit it to GitHub. So we can go back to our desktop, and we can see here is all our imported stuff into master. And so we'll say import template code as being what has happened in this. So we'll commit it locally to master, and then we'll sync it with GitHub. So now that our GitHub in the cloud repo will have that same thing, and then we can just view it on GitHub to actually see that in fact now we've got everything that we need here. Okay, so that's good. So let's go back to let's actually go back to Google Chrome. And we've now done step 7. Check to make sure our repo GitHub now contains the template. And then change directories into the app directory and verify that you can run the template application in your local repo. So just to remind ourselves that the way that we run this thing is with this line here, meteor inside the app directory, we run meteor ---- settings with that config file. So let's go to the terminal. So we'll cd into app, and then we'll run that line. And if all goes according to plan, then what will happen is that localhost 3000 will see our template application. So let's pause for a second to let this all happen. Okay, so now we can type return, and there is our application template running locally in our digits repo, which is what we were hoping would happen. Okay, so that's step 8. Verified that we run the template in our local repo. Now we want to add our picture as a header above the navbar. Use your responsive Castle High or responsive Kamanu code as a guideline. Okay, so let's go remind ourselves, because it has been, a couple of weeks. How did that work in responsive Castle High? So the way that we had a header added in responsive was we created. Well, I guess I'll do it this way. First of all, what does it look like? It's right here. Here's our class header image. It's occurring right above the navbar. The navbar does not have that fixed top thing. It's just navbar inverse. And then that class, as you recall, sets a background image and the size and the cover. And that's our basic thing. So let's try to do that. And we could do that by kind of copying this code and then going into digits and then going into app client style sheet style.css and adding that class. Okay? But of course, oh wait a second, this header is not right, and of course we have to copy our header, our new header, into that directory where we can find it. So let's go back to the desktop. Here's our digits header. We're going to copy, and then we're going to go into public images, propeller V, paste it in, digits header. Sure, let's always add things to Git. And what that means is we can access this. Remember that the public directory is kind of a top level thing, so everything, you don't put the public into the path, but you start with the /images and then digits header.jpg. And that's how we get to the files in the public directory. So there's our header image, and then we want to say div class equals header image in our application header template. So here's our template here. We have the nav bar. We just want to say div class equals and then header image. And then we go, we put a right angle bracket and then we do the close tag for that div. Okay, there's our header. And what we could do now is we could actually look and see what that looks like. Okay, well that looks not good at all. So a couple of things we notice. One is that we've got this, our nav bar is stuck to the top. That's because we're using the nav bar fixed top. So let's get rid of that. And then see how that impacts on things. And so it's a little better, but now we've got that white space at the top, and the reason why we have that white space at the top is because in our style.css file we had this padding top thing, because we had to move the body down below that stuck to the top image. So we get rid of that, and now it's looking pretty good. There's one little thing I don't so it's looking good in some sense, but I don't like this black, and of course we're going to have to replace these two pieces as well. So let's see. We've added our picture as a header. Oh, and then the next thing we want to do is change the body font to Open Sans. Okay, so let's take a look at what I gave you the link to Google Fonts, and it shows you that what you do is you put in to the header this little bit of CSS. Oh, click to copy. That's pretty cool. And so if we go, where is our header in this? And it turns out it's in this main. There's our head. So we're going to go into main, and we'll add that Google Fonts, and then the font name is Open plus Sans. And while we're here, I notice this title is wrong, so let's fix that. Digits. And then what we want to do is in style.css we want to say body font family Open Sans, and then you always need the backup font, and sans serif is a reasonable one for this. Okay, so if we save that out, let's go back here and see now the title is digits, and now we've got this Open Sans font, which is what I'm asking you to use. Okay, so that's good. I think I'm going to make this a little, I feel like this could be a little more deeper. Let's go back here. I don't know. Should we make it 240? Let's see. Change things? Why not? Maybe that's just the proportions or something. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's just because of the nature of the proportion of the image. Okay, so the next thing I'm noticing here, I don't know if you guys are irritated by this, but there's this, these, because it's rounded corners, you get these little blips of white there. I don't like that, and there's an easy way to fix it. What you can basically say is you can say in your navbar class, you can say border radius 0 pixels. So if we add that in, and then we go back here, you can see when it was refreshes, that goes away, and it's just a little cleaner. Okay. Okay, so we've changed the body font to Open Sans. Now we want to change the colors of the body and the navbar to be compatible with your header picture. You can use Image Color Picker to obtain the color associated with any picture. Okay, so let's open this link, and I'll show you how this thing works. This is kind of cool. So upload our image. What we'll do is we'll find our image, which in my case is right here. And I upload the image. Okay, there's my image. And then what I can do is I can say, okay, well, what's that color right there? And I click there, and it shows me this is the HTML color code for that color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my navbar background color be one of these darker, maybe that one right there, a fairly dark blue. And then the font I'm going to have be kind of a light blue, you know, and then hopefully it will all kind of look fairly tasteful. So we got that. That's going to be our code. But the next question is, well, how do we actually modify this? And so what I would do, if it was me, is I would bring up Google Chrome and start inspecting things. So if I look at this navbar, what I can find is that navbar inverse has a background color and a border color, and so I want to override those to that declaration. And so if I go back here and I say .navbar inverse, or actually I could just do, I can just do the navbar, I think, because of the way, because of the fact that this is being loaded after. This is going to override anything that came before. So I can put it into navbar and I'll get, it should work. So let's try that. Okay, so I'm going to say background color, and then I'm going to paste that value that I got. Let's save that out, and let's go take a look. Okay, looks pretty good. And actually, I like this border. Let's make the border color this. Well, we could change the border color. We could keep it the same. I don't know. Let's make the border color the same. We go back here. Okay, I think that's kind of nicer without that little black thing there, that black line there. So that's good for the navbar. The navbar kind of looks like it's suited. Now we got to deal with the text. So first let's go back here, and I think for me I'm going to pick one of these real light blue things. That's about as light as it looks like, about as light as it gets. So I'll select that HTML code, and then the question is, okay, so the brand, I definitely want to override that. And so that looks like the navbar inverse navbar brand is where we're getting that. So actually, let me just select that. Oops. Jeez. Power C. And go here, navbar brand. And then I got to go back and select that color again. So we'll go over here, and I'll copy that, and then I'll go back where I came from, and I'll say color is this. And so hopefully now, there we go. Now that looks kind of nice, and the the hovering color is pretty nice. So But this over here is not good. So let's figure out what that is. So I select my little eyeglass thing and I go over here and I click and I see that the A field, and I think I'll put it within the nav bar so that it's so it's the A field within nav bar nav is where we want to looks like A nav bar nav, and then the LI and the A field. Oh wait, this is the drop-down toggle class actually within the nav bar. So it's nav bar A dot drop-down toggle. Let's try that one. So dot nav bar A drop down toggle color, and then if I still got it there, yeah. So let's try that. Sometimes this takes a little bit of experimentation. Okay, and there it works. Okay, so we've now overridden that color with this class here, which is a little more specific. Okay, that's starting to look pretty good. So we've added the border radius 0 pixels. I did that a little bit before. Now I want to update the title to digits as well as the navbar brand. Oh, right. This should say digits. So we do that in header. Instead of saying Meteor application template, update that to digits. Okay, that looks good. And now I think, let's see, now we want to update the home template to provide a Bootstrap styled table containing address information. So let's go take a look at this. Here's the example. And what do we want to have it be? So we want to have a table, it's striped, and it's got the border is what it's got. So so how do we do that? Well, I did try to help you out here, guys and girls, by providing what an HTML table looks like. So let's take that code and go here and go to our home page, get rid of all that junk and replace it by our table. And then we have to say class for Bootstrap purposes. We say table striped, table border, I think it is. Let's see. So table striped, table bordered. Okay, darn it. Table bordered. So let's do that. Go back here. And there we go. We've got, now unfortunately, this isn't a good color. We don't have our same color here. So let's go back here and figure out why. And the reason why is because we want our body color, we want our body to have a color too. So let's add that color. I think that's the right color to add. Do we want the darker color? No, we want the darker color. So let's go back here, and the background color for the nav bar, that's the one that will look nice here. This other one's a little too light. So we'll change that, go back here. There we go. That looks pretty good, in my humble opinion. And then, so now, actually, if we go here, we have to see what it is. So we have first, last, address, phone, email as the header, and then we have some sample people. So now we just have to kind of go in there to home and say this is first. So first, last, address, phone, email. First, last, address, phone, email. And then the body, oh wait, except it's not, it's all in one row, not a whole bunch of separate rows. First, shoots, that wasn't that. Okay, so TR, TH, okay, right. So the first, last, address, phone, email, that ends it, and then the T body, we're going to have first is Philip, the second is Johnson, address, phone, email, 1680 East West Road, phone 808-956-3489, email Johnson at hawaii.edu. So there's our first row, and then we can do this kind of groovy thing, option up arrow, which is going to select, you know, semantic segments. I can do propeller C, and then copy a couple more in there. I'll delete that guy and then save it out. Let's go take a look and see what we've got here. Good. This looks almost super perfect. Let's do a little editing. It's a little lame to have the same people. So, like for example, I was saying Kim, Binstead, and then Henry, and then go down in this option up arrow, Casanova. I guess we'll just say we have the same phone number, but at least we'll say Binstead and Henry C. We'll go back. Okay, that's looking a little better. Last thing is this footer. Footer doesn't look quite like what we'd we want this to have the same font. So let's go and inspect that guy and see how our footer's made. So it looks like the text muted is adding that color. And then text center, and then it's within the footer. So what I think, there's a few different ways you could deal with this. What I'm going to do, text muted, that doesn't make any sense at all anymore because we're going to add a color. So let's call that text center. And then in my style, I'm going to say body as well as footer should use this font family and color. Let's see if that works. Yeah, looks fine. Okay, and then also I guess I made a change to what the footer said, so let's just change that as well. So, you know, something like made by Philip Johnson for ICS 314. Just, you know, it's good to make these changes just to, you know, demonstrate you can. Okay, so that's our custom footer. And now if we go back to here, we've got our table, inspect the issues, fix any remaining issues. I don't think there's any remaining issues, frankly. This looks pretty much like perfection. So because of that, I will now commit my changes to GitHub and check that they are there. So finished, you know, digits wad 1. Let me just look and see what I've changed. So I've basically changed the style file, the footer, the header, the main, the home, and I've added this image. Not a lot of changes, actually. Not many files were touched in the making of this WAD, but we have something that looks, looks pretty good, I think. Looks a lot different from our template WAD, and there's a color. So let's view on GitHub. Just make sure that it's there. How could we check that? Well, we could go into the app, go into images, and we see our digits header. That's good. And if we go to client, style sheets, style, okay, so all our changes are there. So it's clearly we've succeeded in the commit, just sanity check. So let's call this a 29-minute WAD. That's kind of a long time, but we made I think some nice little changes, and we're all set up for the next one. So enjoy.